Hi, this video is about making some really good whole wheat bread. Here's the ingredients. I use oil, I use honey, there's a couple of measuring cups. That's going to be a 2-cup measurer, a 1-cup measurer, a 1/4 cup measure, a measuring spoon, some light salt, although any kind of salt can be used, I suppose. That's a bottle of yeast and bread flour, whole wheat flour, and the mixer. That's the first things you'll need. For 2 loaves of bread, measure out 1 measuring cup, which is 1/4 of a cup of canola oil. You're going to fill the next ingredient after the oil of 1/4 cup of honey, and then you're going to fill it up 1/2 again, which is actually together 3/8 of a cup of honey to put in the mix. And I'll put that right in the mixer, right over there. Just put it in there right off the bat. After adding the oil and the honey, and be sure to put the oil first because the honey will stick to your measuring cup if you don't do the oil first. Then put in 1 level tablespoon of salt. I use light salt. I guess you could use regular salt. And then we're going for the flour next. Hold on. Okay, we're doing the flour next. I've already got 1 level cup of bread flour, and I'm going to put the 2nd cup in there. Then we're going to do 4 level cups full of whole wheat flour. So that'll be 6 cups total of flour. Next, I add 1 cup of milk. And then I fill it up, this is a 2-cup measure, and I fill it up beyond the 2-cup measuring with another cup of water, warm water. I use warm, and you'll notice that it's above the 2-cup area there, about 1/4 of an inch. Now there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you in a minute. Now I'm going to put it in the microwave. I'm going to warm it up for about a minute, and then I'm going to put it in the mixture. But I'll show you how that's done in just a minute. Okay, the warm water and milk and water mixture is warmed, and I'm about to do something else that I want to tell you about. First thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to turn on this oven here at 350 degrees, and I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. And when that beeper goes off, I'm going to turn it off. I'm just warming the oven for right now. All right, now we're going right back over here. And I want to show you what I do with this milk and water mixture. First thing I do, I've got this half cover on the mixer here, and I'm just going to stir that down a little bit. And then I'm going to pour half of this warm mixture in there. Just pour it right on in there. Just flop it in. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble getting it in there right later on. You're liable to hit you may hit the paddles there or whatever. What you want to do, get that going. And then you want to add the mixture very, very slowly. I'm sorry, my camera work's not very good. You want to pour it in there just about as fast as it'll take it, but not any faster, because otherwise you'll get so much liquid in there that it'll sling it all up the sides of your bowl and just make a mess. So you can pour it in there just a trickle, and you can just, when you get close to the end of the milk water mixture, you'll have to just stop for a minute and let it absorb the rest of it. You don't want to pour it in there any faster than it will absorb it. Now you'll see it starting to go up the sides of the bowl. You can see it's getting kind of wet over there. I'm going to hold up a minute, let it absorb a little more. This is going to be a really wet mixture because it's more liquid than you need for that amount of flour. And I do that for a reason. And the reason is that I like my loaves to be real high and pretty. Pour that in there and let that stir. Now I hear the oven going off, so I'm going to go turn it off and just let it be sitting over there warm for right now. Oops, there's the timer. Cut it off too. Okay. So there it is mixing. And if you'll notice, that's a pretty wet mixture. It's a little too wet. And here's how to tell. I'm going to take the top off here. And it's just really, really, really sticky. I mean sticky. See there? Just sticky. So what you want to do is put just enough flour in there. Now if you put an abundance of mix of water in there, or your wet mixture, and now you want to add, you can add back a little bit of red flour, the white flour, or some whole wheat. I like to add back enough to let, and that's going to take probably close to a half cup. I don't know whether it'll take quite a half. Let's just see what it'll take. Turn it back on. You just put in a little at a time until it absorbs. It's going to take a few more minutes of mixing here. You notice that bowl is cleaning up real well. There's a little bit stuck on the far side over there, a little bit of the wet mixture, but even it's going to be gone away if you'll notice. But it's also sticking to the center post. You don't want it to stick to that center post, so I can tell it's already too wet. So I've used most of that already, that flour. And it's going to be a semi-soft mixture when I get to it. It won't be really sticky. It might have a little bit of stickiness to it, but it won't in the end when we form the loaves. See, it's starting to turn loose a little bit of that center post. Put a little more flour in there. I know it's not ready. So you just hold on. I should have put that little half cover back on there, slinging out some of my flour. Nothing like a good mess. Alright, let's see how that feels. Well, still pretty sticky. It's not too bad. Ooh, see it sticking to my hands there. Pretty sticky. Got to have a little more flour. And that's all of it. Now I'm going to let that stir around for probably 3 or 4 minutes. That's going to be about right. If it's a little bit sticky, that's good. And the reason is you don't want dry bread. You want to bake this at 350 for exactly 25 minutes in a preheated oven. That's my formula that works out perfectly with this size loaf. I'm going to let that mix a little, and I'll show you what I do after that. Now I've got a good sized bowl here that I'm going to put the dough in to rise, and I'm going to just take this cooking spray and I'm just going to spray it real good inside of there. But I don't want the dough to stick. And then I'm going to take this dough in this mixer here, and I'm just put the whole blob right in there, and then I'm going to turn it right upside down so both sides have been oiled lightly. Then I'm going to cover it with saran wrap and put it in the oven for 1.5 hours approximately. It'll probably rise up a little before then, but I'll put the timer on for about 1.5 hours, and then I'll check it after about hour and 15 minutes. Hush up, kitty cat. And then it'll probably be doubled in size, after which I can beat it down and make the loaves up, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, now I've got the dough mixture in there where I sprayed the bowl, and I flipped it over and I just patted it down with the back of my hand. It's nice and flat. Now I'm going to cover it with saran wrap, put it in the oven for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it should be doubled in size by then, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, this dough has risen all the way to the top of this bowl, as you can see. Now, it's been in there 1 hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to take the cover off, and I'm just going to watch this now. See it just shrink right down? And that is because it's got carbon dioxide in there, and you have to release it. Now I'm getting a little of this bread flour here. I'm just going to sprinkle it right right out here on this nice clean surface. And believe it or not, I have really clean hands, which is very important. Just dump your dough right out on there, like that. I'm going to put a little of this flour in the back of my hand here. Sprinkle just a little on here. And I'm just going to hit it easily like that to start with, so it won't throw flour everywhere. And I'm just knocking the gas out of this. Now I'm going to be mean with it. Don't baby this stuff. No need to baby it. Knock all the gas out. Otherwise, you're going to have big holes in your finished bread, and that's not what you want. You want it nice, evenly textured. Now, I've got that sort of halfway knocked out. I'm going back over here. I'm going to get one of these little pastry cutter devices here. You could use a sharp knife or a dull knife or whatever. And I'm going to try to even this up a little so that I can sort of halfway get it in half. But I'm making two loaves here. I'm just going to cut it in two like that. And I'm going to say, that one seems just a hair heavy. Yep, about right. No use trying to complicate this. Now I'm going to take some more of this cooking spray. I'm just going to spray in this bread pan. I'm going to spray it nice and evenly. And here's the tricky part that a lot of people think is really tricky, and it's really not. So don't complicate it. People think they can't do this. They certainly can. First of all, I would just knead it a little bit. Just fold it over, push it down. Fold it over, push it down. Use your body now and your weight to do that. Just do that just a few times. You're still working on that gas. You want it out of there. Now you're going to feel that dough starting to get just a little bit sticky now, because you're exposing the inner part of it. And that's fine. You don't want to keep adding flour to it till it gets really dry. You don't want that at all. Now what I do now, let's put your hands on top, roll it down. On top, roll it under. Roll it under. Roll it under. And look what you get. You get a perfectly smooth ball. That's what you're looking for. And then, when you get that nice round ball, just roll it. Just like when you were a kid, playing with the dough and the clay and all that. You make it into a nice oval like that. Take that pan, and I just kind of flatten it out a little bit, put it right in the bottom of that pan, just like so. Then I take the back of my hand and just press it. Or the flat palm of my hand, just press it down in there. What you're trying to do is trying to press it sort of into the corners. It's going to go in there anyway as it rises, but just like that, nice and flat. Then I put just a little bit of cooking spray on top. Get out the saran wrap. Cover that. And the reason I put a little saran wrap, a little cooking spray on there, I don't want the dough as it rises up. I tore a hole in that one. That's not very good. But anyway, you want to keep it from sticking to the saran wrap. Alrighty. Put that right over on top. Set it aside. Now we're going to do it again. Now watch this. It's nothing to it, but people complicate this. It's not complicated. Don't complicate it. Outside, a little more flour, just a tad, just a little flour here. Then I'm going to try to beat that over a little bit. Beat it down again. Just a little bit of kneading. Just a little bit of kneading. Everybody needs kneading. Alright, now, just a tad more here. Now we're going to make that ball again. Put hands on top, roll it under. Press down, roll it under. Turn it, roll it, roll it, turn it, roll it. Now you got a nice ball. See that? Round, nice. Easy. Very easy to do. Now just take your hand on top, just roll it. Don't complicate it. Not complicated at all. Don't complicate it. Put it on. I got a nice long elongated piece. Flatten it down. Down. Just a little bit of spray. Put the top on her. Now we're going to let this rise for 30 minutes. It may end up being a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but we haven't quite got to all this yet. That's how we're going to do this. Now I'm going to set this aside for a second. Now I'm going to take that oven over there and I'm going to set it for 350 for 1 minute. Just going to turn it on. It's still slightly warm from the previous time, but we're going to turn it on for 350 for 1 minute. Bake. Start. Timer. 1 minute. Start. Okay, when that goes off, then I will put those in there and time it for 25 minutes. It may take 30. What you want it to do is to rise above that pan about that far. If you let it rise up and over the pan and roll over, that's a no-no, because it'll end up rolling down, and you don't want to let it rise that much. You want to let it rise about that far above the pan if you're looking at it from the side. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, you'll see that these have been in for 30 minutes in the oven, you know, with a slight temp in there. And they raised up about 1 inch. Now I like them a little bit higher than this, but what I do, I take them out after 30, and then I've got the oven on preheat at 350 degrees, and that'll give me another, oh, I don't know, 5 or so minutes for this to rise just a little bit higher. After which I'll put them in there, and of course they will jump on up, and you'll see when I get them in the oven and come out. Now I bake them at exactly 25 minutes at 350 degrees, and I do that in a convection oven. So your oven may be slightly different, you just got to play with it. But that leaves your bread not hard as a rock. It's moist on the inside, but yet it's done. I think you're gonna love it, but I'll show you as soon as I get them all out of the oven. Okay, I hear a timer going off. Stop timer. Here we go. Taking out the bread. I'm going to set one right over there. Set the oven right close to it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. Now here's what I do. I just turn it over and flip it back over. There it is on this. Ooh, warm. Do it again. Back up there, baby. All right, what I like to do is this. And this really helps the crust of your bread. If you could use margarine or whatever, but you just want to take a little butter or something and just go right over the top here. That's the way I do it. I guess you could do it with your fingers, but I try to be sort of ultra sanitary with the things that I do. Now it looks nice and smooth and round right at the moment. As they cool down, they will start to wrinkle a little bit, but that's normal. I'm sure you've bought bread. That's the way bought bread looks too, kind of wrinkled. That's what it does. But I'll say this now. I didn't create bread, okay? But I can tell you this, that if you do this about 3 times, so that if you're a newcomer to bread making and do this about 3 times, it'll take you about 3 times to get the feel for the dough, to know how it feels when it's right. That is, not too dry, not too sticky and wet. And then you go ahead and make up the stuff. You'll never buy bought bread again. I'm not against the bread companies. I'm just telling you, this is superior. It's really, really good. And I hope you'll try this recipe, and I'm going to throw the recipe in there if I can get that done too. That'll probably be as a, maybe I'll video it, I don't know, but it's a real simple recipe. I've already told you what it was, but I'm going to put it in there. So bon appetit or whatever they say, and I hope you love it, because I sure do. I've been making this for years and years. Good luck.